So compassion fatigue, some of the symptoms are just disengaging with others, and you self-protect. And so apathy is the biggest thing that happens with it.
Wow.
You're taking care of others. You're exhausted, and so you just pull away and you just don't care.
Right.
Sound like it worked?
Well, and just the fatigue, which it's called compassion fatigue. So I think just that piece alone, that you're feeling this kind of state of exhaustion or feeling sluggish. Welcome to Intentional Leadership. On today's podcast, we want to talk about a really interesting topic that's come up in our entrepreneurial world.
Right. It's called compassion fatigue. I'd never heard of it. And a couple of weeks ago, we heard the term and thought, what is this? And it's a form of burnout. And typically it was with first responders, medical people that are taking care of others, and that is causing them to be completely fatigued and tired and exhausted. So now it's all first responders, and we're finding it throughout society because of the daily grind of the negativity of TV and what's going on.
Right. Yeah, it's a tough one. And as I thought about it, I can really see it in my own life just in the last year because of what happened with my dad passing away and caring for him before he did, and then really just being a support and caregiver of my mom. I found myself so tired, like just completely in this fog, and thought that it was just the grief of losing my parent. And now once hearing this compassion fatigue, went, wow, that really describes where I was. And is this something that you're facing today? We want to talk about more details with you so you can really understand what this is, what the symptoms are of compassion fatigue. Do you have it? And if so, what are some things that you can do to recognize this and then to be able to change it in your life? Because obviously it takes its toll.
Right.
Yeah. And for me, how this came up last year as you started talking about this is I was seeing a therapist for craniosacral work, which that's really an awesome therapy if you haven't had it. That can be really helpful just to reset your nervous system. And I have this wonderful therapist, Jenna, who specializes in this. And she was doing a session with me where she said to me, Janelle, you know what? You are like many of the caregivers that I take care of today. And she could actually feel in my body this more fullness in the lungs, chest area, this heaviness that was there. And she said, I see this in caregivers because they're carrying the world of others in their heart. And I thought, wow, that is so true. And I thought of myself and how I was doing that, not only caring for my own grief, but I was carrying my mom's grief and my daughter's grief and just that whole situation. And you think about healthcare and people that are working with those in trauma. And I'm a trauma-informed therapist as well, and working with other entrepreneurs who have been through, that are overcoming trauma, sometimes getting into their journeys with them. You, because of compassion, you're coming alongside them, and that can cause fatigue. So let's talk about what some of the symptoms are of this and see if it resonates with you.
Right. So compassion fatigue, some of the symptoms are just disengaging with others, and you self-protect. And so apathy is the biggest thing that happens with it.
Wow.
You're taking care of others. You're exhausted, and so you just pull away and you just don't care.
Right.
Sound like it worked?
Well, and just the fatigue, which it's called compassion fatigue. So I think just that piece alone, that you're feeling this kind of state of exhaustion or feeling sluggish. So I think if you're experiencing a lot of fatigue and you're trying to narrow down what it is, could it be because you've been really caring for others? I mean, maybe you have a child that's going through something really hard. We had someone that was dealing with a stage 4 cancer at our office, and your heart just went out to this individual. And so you're carrying the weight of other people around, and it can cause this fatigue.
Right.
So other symptoms?
Yeah, sadness, anxiety, and just the negative feelings that you often have. It can all be symptoms of it.
Right. Maybe a shortness of temper, just some of those things that you see are signs of burnout can be signs of this compassion fatigue.
Right. And they're common. Some people view it as just a different form of burnout, a very specific form. And so some of those things are very much the same. Physically, you could have headaches, you could be exhausted, you could be, just agitated or not agitated, hungry, or loss of appetite, either way. And so physically you have issues
That's
too.
a good one. Yeah. And sleep, either that you want to sleep all the time, that you just find that you don't want to get out of bed, or it's really hard to get up and you're just so tired, and you're wanting to sleep all the time. Or on the other hand, you're really having trouble sleeping. You're maybe so exhausted, but you find that you can't sleep.
Right.
So those are some of the symptoms. So if you're feeling some of those things, ask yourself, have you been in a situation that's become chronic, that where you have been caring for the trauma of another individual? So either in a healthcare situation where you're maybe the caregiver for somebody else, someone in your family, maybe it's a child that has been having some issues that you've been helping them through, but it's not something that it was just this one issue that happened at school. Maybe there's a health concern or a mental concern, and it's gone on for months. Maybe you've gone to doctors and you haven't gotten the answers that you've needed, and you kept trying these different things. Your child's frustrated, therefore you're frustrated. So is there a situation in your life right now where something has gone on for a long time, where you've had to be caring for somebody else and you find yourself suffering for it? So that's the way to diagnose, is this happening in your own life? And then let's just take a few minutes and talk about, okay, what do you do if this has happened? So as you're listening to this today and you're going, oh my word, that's me too. That's exactly what I'm facing. And what do I do?
Right. And I view it kind of like you have your bucket full of water, you have your bucket full of care and empathy, and it's just been draining slowly.
Oh, wow.
And so you need to stop it. You need to plug that up. And to do that, first thing, you identify that you do have it and what's causing it. And then you go seek help for that, whatever that might be.
Right.
And it could be that you prioritize some self-care. Take time and just don't disengage, but just to kind of step back from it and go for long walks, read a book, get a massage, go to acupuncture, do something that just fills you back up.
Good point.
Personally.
Good point. I think along with that, it's setting boundaries in your life is really important. If you are a caregiver or in a situation where you're having to provide care for someone, and this isn't going to go away. This is somebody you love. This is part of your life right now, to help a family member or a friend or a colleague or somebody that works for you through an issue, through a chronic issue, that this is going to go on for a while. You've got to set some boundaries to be able to take care of you. So on the self-care piece, one of the pieces of self-care is to set healthy boundaries. So you need to know, what does that look like for you, and where do you need to get some help? And we've got a situation in our family where we have a caregiving situation, and there needs to be that self-care of going, you know what, we need to bring somebody else into the home to help out so that the person who's the caregiver can take a break. Because what can happen when you're the caregiver is you're so just engrossed in, this is your job and this is your world, that you've got to care for this child, this parent, this employee, whatever it may be, this spouse, that this is what you do. And you don't even see straight anymore. And the fact that you're not creating any boundaries for yourself and your health is suffering because of it. So you can't really have that caring and the empathy that you want to have for this individual if you're not taking your own break. So creating those boundaries of how many times a week or a month, do you need to have somebody else come in and help in this situation? Who can you have help you so that you can create some boundaries for yourself.
All right. So you set the boundaries, you do some self-care with those within, and then you seek some support.
Right.
Maybe that's a counselor, friend, something.
I think that's great. Yeah. And another piece that I should mention that's just was really helpful to me in kind of coming out of this compassion fatigue was really entering into mindfulness and meditation and realizing that just the aspect of mindfulness is so healing to your body. And it's this body awareness that, as I talked about, you're in this zone that you don't even really know how much you're suffering because you're taking care of the suffering of another individual. Your mind is obsessed with that. So when you apply mindfulness to your own life, which is essentially being aware and being present, and you're thinking, wow, when I get to here, I am completely spent and I can't come back from that very easily. Knowing where that boundary is can make such a difference. And by adding the mindfulness piece, if you're doing mindfulness every day, some type of mindfulness where you're having some quiet time and you're really becoming self-reflective, you're just aware, even with something as simple as your own breath. And I have some other videos you're welcome to check out on just some breath techniques, some breath work, just to help you calm down, to help you center, to become self-aware. And if you do that, even for a few minutes every day, it calms your nervous system, it brings healing to your body, and it helps to help you and heal you from this compassion fatigue.
Right. And really that's all it is stopping, being aware that you've been giving.
Right.
The bucket's empty. And now you need to fill it up, and what do you need to do? And I think if you make that aware, you make yourself aware, and you do the mindfulness, that will go a long way to fixing the problem.
Right. I think so too. And it's really important that you talk about this. So we're bringing up this compassion fatigue today because when we heard about this and how prevalent it is right now and getting worse, that we want you to know about it and recognize it in your own life. Maybe as you're listening, you've recognized it in your own life, or you've recognized it in the life of a loved one. It's really important to talk about this with someone, to recognize it and to be able to do something about it so that you can fill your own bucket. You can bring up that care meter and compassion meter again, because let's face it, the world needs your compassion, your love. But in order to do that, you've got to take really great care of yourself first. Because then when you care for yourself, you can care better for others.